Hello everyone, my name is Lily and I'm the creative director here at Bubblegum Cartoons, and today I will be showing you how I did my 1920s, 1930s style rubber hose animation. Today we will be redesigning Sophie from our original web series Demonic Crepes, and I will be transforming her into a 1920s tap dancing girl. Let's get started. So first of all, I did all the pre-production for this, hand-drawn on paper, just like the old days. Yes, we are going full vintage, despite the fact that I'm animating this on the computer. So when Sophie was going through her redesigns, I really wanted to think what would communicate her best as being this vintage character. So in my studies, I did some things like I looked at Betty Boop, Felix the Cat, old Mickey Mouse cartoons, Popeye, Looney Tunes, and of course, the most recent one that you might know is Cuphead, the video game. So they kind of fell into these like two types of characters. We had our creature animal characters and we had our lady characters. The ladies tend to be a little more plain and the creature characters tend to have like more bouncy personality, so I did both. So she's kind of got like the big bulbous head, the little middle section, which was kind of like her compromise between being a lady and a creature, and then she has that big bulbous bottom with those little teeny skinny rubber legs and her tap shoes. I also gave her those white gloves to make her hands stand out a little better, and I brought up the cuff from the wrist to the elbow to give it like a little more class. I also did have to shorten her hair because in the 1920s it was actually a rebellious, lovely look for a lady to have short hair because it resisted expectations of ladies to have long feminine hair. Also, this choreography is from the opening of Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, which is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. So I had to give her a special tap dancing outfit, and when I was researching those, they're all like kind of tuxes, and those weren't very fun because I wanted a big fluffy skirt that would bounce up and down while she tap danced, and you could kind of see her bloomers underneath, because back in the 1920s I feel like bloomers were always showing, and I thought that was super cheeky and cute. So I gave her a sweetheart neckline and kind of like a Minnie Mousey kind of skirt. And then to really symbolize that of course this is a tap dance, I gave her a top hat. Now let's move on to facial features. So I gave her these kind of like super cute pudgy cheeks, and I gave her these pie eyes. Now the pie eyes really sell this vintage look. Usually the shine on the eyes that I do have like, you know, a circle bubble interrupting the pupil line. But this has this really cute classic look, and I really like the pie eye look. I simplified her nose into a little triangle, and my favorite part is when she smiles, she has this big rounded toothy mouth. There are no corners, everything is pretty soft except for the tips of her toes. And of course her hair has a great bounce and a cute little curl on the end, just so she still looked like Sophie, but I wanted it to also be 1920s, 1930s Sophie. So this style can be referred to as rubber hose animation. So rubber hose animation basically is this kind of loosey-goosey, have no bones kind of animation. So she doesn't have any proper knees or elbows especially. And rules don't really matter here, like she can hang in the air for as long as she wants. It's all like really like the height of exaggerated like cartooniness. I made sure like there was like lots of little characteristics, like whenever she tapped her toe, you could see the tap coming off of it, because a lot of these films back in the day were silent, so they had to really communicate every sound, every gesture that was made. Also with this animation, I did something that is very challenging for me. I did some in-between animating. So if you guys don't know, I usually do straight ahead animation, which is kind of like wild and free, go free, Sagittarius girl. Like you have this idea in your head and you just animate forward, and you know, you see where it takes you. This is much easier in like dialogue scenes, but when you're doing choreography like this, you kind of want to do in-betweening. So what I did was I had my reference footage of all the many lovely blonde tap dancers from Indiana Jones. and I had that, and so I walked through and I took all the keyframes. Now, how do you tell what's a keyframe? What's the most important? So I took main poses. Since I was a dancer, you kind of get like, you know, like the 5, 6, 7, 8, which step is which, right, left, you know, like tap, ball change, that kind of stuff. But if you're not a dancer, what are the big moments that pop out to you? For me, I chose the left, the right, anytime her arms reached all the way up, all the way down, so all the most extreme gestures. So what I did was I super loosely sketched all those out, like every direction, and I wanted to make sure all her arcs were proper, like with her hands, with her legs, where she landed. I wanted to make sure that was symmetrical and made sense. So after all those keyframes, I just started from the beginning. So between where she stands with her hands forward and then when she jumps to the left. So what happens between those? You draw the perfect in-between between those. And then you just go from there, and you kind of have to feel it out. I tend to sometimes over-animate, so sometimes I do have to delete frames once I play it through. It plays a little too slow. And with these things, you especially want them to be a little like more snappy and jumpy and not as like smooth. So I tend to be a little too smooth sometimes. So sometimes you just gotta chip chop some of those frames. Another thing that was super fun about this rubber hose animation was all the smear frames. You guys will definitely see them here and there. So a smear frame, which is not necessarily a smear, but it's kind of like when there's a big jump from like left to right. In the middle, you'll see it's almost as if she has many hands and many arms, and they're all sticking out of her like she's an arachnid or something. But when you play them all the way through, you will not notice it. Or when you do, you know, you probably have the eye of an animator, so congrats. This really was just super, super fun to make. I really loved transforming her into this 1920s, 1930s type girl. It was really, really fun to go back to my roots and do, you know, this like vintage animation style, since my background is in traditional animation. However, I did not go out and purchase X sheets to do this. And I was just feeling like super, super inspired to do something vintage. Who knows, this might be part of the theme song. I think it's super cute, and you guys know I love doing choreography. So after I did all of this, what I did that you might not see here is that I did all the coloring. So I made sure that I had some mid, dark, and light tones here. So I wanted her eyes, of course, to be the brightest, and her hands and her shoes, so all of those things pop out. And then I want her dress to be a little on the darker side. And her eyes were going to be jet black. Those should be the darkest. And I could have even gone darker on her top hat or her dress. The idea back then was that everything was ink and painted, and it's really expensive to have a lot of different colors, and you know, there wasn't color cameras yet. So choosing those colors were very simple for me in 2019, because you know, you just drag and drop. I didn't have a whole department of ladies, you know, working really hard over this. It's just me, the department of ladies number one. So for the background, I actually, my pen was dead on my iPad, so I just did this in Toon Boom really quick. I did a background layer, because usually I like to do these in Procreate on my iPad. So I just did like a basic stage. I did some curtains in the back, a little stairs going up in the back, and then a wooden floor, because you know, when you're tap dancing, you gotta ruin a nice wooden floor. So I also edited this, so you can see her by herself, her with all her undersketches, because I love that little vintage feel that you get from seeing the undersketch. Oh, it's so cute. And then I had her dancing with a lot of replicas looking of her like they did in the opening to Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom. And yeah, the song is Anything Goes, and it's one of my favorite musicals ever. So this project was super fun and super, you know, important to me. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope I explained it well enough. And without further ado, let's check out Sophie tap dancing like it's the 1920s. Thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to our patrons on Patreon. Thank Thank you so much, Embro Comics, for becoming a rainbow crepe. You are totally awesome. You patrons are so totally wicked, and you make my dreams come true. Shout out to Fan Art of the Week. I have so many of you guys saying that you want to do some fan animations or fan art. Please, please, please do not hesitate to send those over. And thank you so much for watching. And until next week, stay inspired.